Hi, everyone. Welcome. I appreciate your being here today. What we'll do to get ourselves in the mindset, in the body set, idea set of today is I would like to have you put your feet on the floor, feel that ground beneath you. Take a couple of good deep breaths. Maybe roll your shoulders a couple times. Depending what kind of a day you've had, stretch a little bit. Being aware of your body in space and time. And then when you're ready, I'd like you to concentrate on a favorite plant. A favorite plant. It could be an indoor plant. Maybe it was a gift from someone. Maybe it's something that you grew from seed. It could be an outdoor plant, large or small, flowers or no flowers, fruit or no fruit. Consider its structure, all the way from roots, the roots that nourish it, to that place where it reaches just above the dirt, and then continuing to focus on the stem or the trunk of the plant, and whatever growth is at the top, some leaves. Envision yourself breathing with this living being. Breathing with this being. And in your mind, smile at your plant. Marvel about your plant. Consider that concept, the idea of in Lakesh, that this plant is another you. We are surrounded by other beings, large and small. So today we're going to be focusing on the green life, the plants. So by plants, I mean a whole variety of different things. And we'll be diving into those characteristics in just a few moments. I do have this announcement. The next extra credit movie, please take note, is on Monday, September 29th at 7 p.m. I don't have a location for that yet. I'll announce that either on Thursday or via Canvas announcement. So that's coming for you. So that's an opportunity. Autumn also has an announcement about an opportunity. You want to share that?
Yes. In Lakesh, it's good to see all of you. I have an opportunity for all of you. So this Thursday, a special guest is coming to Penn State. He's from Cornell University, and it's a part of an initiative that I've been working on for about a year. It's called Nature and Art RX. And so the idea is that we have been studying that being in the natural world and being connected to the natural world has a tremendous effect on our well-being. And so all of Penn State is partnering together to give students the opportunity to connect more with the natural world by creating events that are connected to this theme. And to kick off this project, finally, that we've been planning for so long, Don Rackow is going to be coming. And so he started a Nature RX program at Cornell University. And it was very successful. He's written a few books about how undergrads' connection to nature plays a big role in how successful they turn out to be later in their life. And so he's going to be doing a keynote here in this room on Thursday at 7 p.m. And so I encourage you to write that down because as a part of this class, you're required to attend 2 events as a part of your final grade. And this will be a great event to attend because I think it'll give you skills that you can take into your life moving forward to make sure you become the most successful version of yourself in the future. So again, that's on Thursday at 7 p.m. in this room. And he's also leading a forest bathing walk at the Arboretum as well at 4 p.m. But you need to register for that. So all of this information is going to be given to you in a Canvas announcement that I'm going to send out. And I am looking forward to hearing your thoughts about this experience.
Thanks, Autumn. Appreciate your sharing the opportunity with us. So then, to dig in to opportunities, further exploration, you can find this on every module, every week module of Canvas. So lots of different connections. The Trees of Penn State is a website called lorax.psu.edu. You can see all of the different types of plants on a map. And every week I'm just highlighting that there are opportunities for you to extend what happens during class with these little videos, which may lead you to others. If you find other things that you think would be good to add here, please send them my way and we'll make them available for future students. So that's an opportunity. So we'll start here. What are some ways that you are different from plants? And so when I'm talking about plants, I could be talking about trees or herbs, could be bushes or grasses or vines or ferns or mosses, even green algae. So what are 3 ways that you are different from plants? Write those down there on page 52 of your journal. All right, and then when you have those, then proceed to this one, this list. What are the ways that you are the same or similar to plants? And when you have both lists, compare your list with your neighbor. All right. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves. All right, who can list a way that we are different from plants? Microphones are available for you.
We cannot do photosynthesis.
Precisely, which is pretty cool that they can't. Yes. Photosynthesis, a main difference.
I said, well, that we don't contain chlorophyll.
We don't contain chlorophyll. Great. We're on the same page,
Um, we can run, they can't.
right? We can move freely, running around.
I said I can think and plants can't.
Okay. Couple of votes for that up here.
I was gonna say that too, but then I'm now questioning that because apparently there's like roots and stuff that are connected with trees and they can like talk to each other, air quotes, like they can like talk to each other. But can they? Is it considered thinking if you don't have a brain?
What a brilliant question. We will explore more of that as we go today. What about ways that we're similar?
We're both living organisms that rely on sunlight, water, and other natural resources from the planet.
Yeah, thank you. Some basic needs.
We both grow.
We both grow. Yeah, sweet.
I said
Plants can
that.
also reproduce.
Reproduce. Yep. And
I said that we can bloom and like show our true colors.
yeah, bloom and show our true colors. Thank you for saying that. That's lovely.
We're similar to plants in that we're rooted.
We are rooted. Yeah, some of us more than others, right? Yeah. All right, so we're going to explore some of these that you've listed. I appreciate your answers and your brainstorming. And so we'll follow up. So we've been here already, right? That plants breathe. And we breathe in, breathing in, I receive earth, and breathing out, I give to earth. Goes back to that dualism of we need to receive and we need to give. So the complex, equation looks like this with the sun's energy and the chlorophyll. So this is a very basic equation that I'm sure you've seen before. It releases those sugars that the tree uses for food, and then the oxygen that we and other creatures use for breathing. I think the big part of this that we've already hit upon that was huge for me as I went through school was that I never really realized that this one was from me and this one was going to me. So that direct relationship being really important. So we've hit on that. That's pretty exciting. Plants eat, so that C6H12O6 is sugar, which obviously we consume as well. And so plants are eating the sun, and this is how they're doing it via this visible spectrum of light right in here. So there are gamma rays and all of these, there's UV rays, infrared rays, microwave rays, FM, all these different kinds of waves. And the visible spectrum is right in this tiny spot right here in the middle. And this visible spectrum for us, I should say this is our visible spectrum. There are other animals that can see in UV or in infrared moving into that. They have a wider vision spectrum than we do. But when we consider our visible spectrum, you can see that there's a big part of it that's red, a big part of it that's green, violet. These are the major ones. So specifically thinking about green, why would we be able to see more shades of green, more specifics about green compared to, say, orange or yellow? How is green, why is that important for us? Any ideas out there?
When we were still like hunting and gathering, like way back when, like we need to be able to differentiate between different kinds of plants and like the organic things around us, as opposed to like orange and red, which are
Yeah.
mostly colors that we see that are like man-made.
Very good. Thank you. So we need to see more varieties of green because that was more of our food plants. So as hunter-gatherers, we have a bigger relationship with green. And then the opposite of green, you know, on the color spectrum is red. So those two work together to build the majority of what we're seeing. So more shades of green is important for us. So we are also eating, but then when we think about the experience of other animals, particularly the one that I love to talk about is the small group of falcons called kestrels, Eurasian kestrels. They can see in UV light over here, and it just so happens that mouse urine, if you shine it under or bring out the UV colors, mouse urine shows up in those really cool purple colors that are off of our spectrum, but that kestrels can see. And they need to see that because they're eating them. So they can watch where the mice are peeing, something we can't see, and then follow their tracks and be able to hunt them. So understanding that eyesight is an umwelt situation, you'll be reading about that in your text if you haven't already. The idea that we can think about or try to put ourselves in the place of those other animals to experience what they're experiencing in their world, and bring about some extra compassion and connection through that feeling of umwelt, that understanding of the other. So that's interesting. So we are eating, they are eating. We have a circulatory system, looks like this, and they have a circulatory system. There's xylem and phloem that are flowing through all the plants, right? They're moving nutrients and water throughout the plant system. And that's really vital, so that all of the, you know, when these leaves up here are making all those sugars, the sugars have to go to support all of the different parts of the plant's being. So they spread them out through these circulatory systems like ours. Xylem and phloem, not very unlike our veins and arteries. And plants have evolved. So when we look at this from the very beginning of protists down here at the bottom, and then this whole chain of plants going up, land plants, you can see a similar chain happening here with some water creatures and other crustaceans, arachnids, mollusks, all of them have stemmed from the bottom. And then we go up the chain of vertebrates, where we find mammals and where we find ourselves here at the top. So plants have also evolved. There's been this very direct co-stories that have happened over time. Those first plants, way back when, they were little, right? They started out as being little, and they required water in order to spread their genetic material. So they had spores, right? The first big trees evolved about 360 million years ago, had roots and leaves. They could live only in moist environments because they reproduced by these spores, which needed the moisture. And then came about the innovation of the seed. Seed enabled plants to colonize non-wet land, changing much of the land's look, right, and composition. So that was really important. The first vast forest appeared. So when we think about this evolution of trees, 66 million years ago, hardwood trees, then we're getting up into here, right, and up into here. 66 million years ago, hardwood trees were more common, oaks, walnuts, palm trees, and 50 of the 500 families of flowering plants had already evolved, and mammals were becoming increasingly diverse. So there's a long story of plants, and we all started there at the bottom. So because we all started in the same place, 60% of our DNA is the same as bananas. 50% of our DNA with trees, 40% of our DNA with apples, 25% of our DNA we share with daffodils. And then if we look at animals, just for comparison, on this mammals chain, you can understand that we share 90% of our DNA with cats, 84% of our DNA with dogs, and we share 98% of our DNA with pigs. So understanding that there's a very deep-rooted connection, no pun intended. So we grow, somebody said that, right? We grow. So thinking about that growth, this is an unusual case. This photo is a picture of Pando, which is believed to be the largest organism on the planet. So all of these stems of this kind of tree, right? They're birch trees. They are all, they're quaking aspen trees. Sorry. And they are all connected to the same root system. They are all one organism with multiple stems. So quaking aspen, this is located in Utah's Fish Lake National Forest. Aspen trees evolved just after the dinosaurs' extinction 65 million years ago. 47,000 stems on one organism, covers more than 100 acres. It's hard to tell exactly how long it's been around. Some scientists say that it might be 80,000 years old because one stem can die and another one can grow, but the entire organism is still living. So this brings us to the point that we also grow, but there's also a deeper connection here, right? There is community, all of these stems working together to feed each other, right? This is where the talking part comes to each other. The idea that our communities also involve communication. So Abby, would you pull up that video for me, please? Yes, thanks.
Bäume sind sehr soziale Wesen. Und da kann man tatsächlich die Eltern, Mutter, Bäume um ihren Nachwuchs. Hier haben wir einen Buchenkindergarten.
I started looking at the root systems and I found that the roots of these different species, when they grew together, they were all intertwined and interlinked together.
And with Charles people in Vancouver Island, they say fish ish sawa, which means everything is one.
Was wir als Baum betrachten, das ist nur oberirdisch. Ein Großteil des Lebens findet aber unterirdisch statt. Also auf einem Teelöffel leben mehrere Kilometer Pilzfäden, die dicht verwoben das Hinterland des Waldes bilden.
The mycorrhizal network is just below the surface of the forest floors. All of the trees were all linked together in a single massive network. And that was sort of the rudimentary understanding of the language of trees.
Bäume haben Gefühle, die können Schmerz empfinden, aber die haben auch solche Emotionen, kann man fast sagen, wie Angst. Es gibt bei Bäumen auch besondere Freundschaft, dass Bäume sich ja, wie so ein Ehepaar zusammentun und dann ganz besonders Rücksicht aufeinander nehmen.
We think of that as an interaction between trees, but it's really, you know, they're looking after each other.
Also hier kämpft nicht jeder gegen jeden ins Licht, ganz im Gegenteil, hier unterstützt jeder jeden. Also ein Baum, der von Insekten befallen wird, der warnt alle anderen vor seinem Umfeld.
Through these various experiments and our discoveries, I've started to think about the root systems of trees and forests as the brains of the forest.
Hier ist ein uralter Stumpf. Und dieser Stumpf, der lebt noch.
The stump was still alive because its root systems are actually grafted to its neighbors.
Von Natur aus kuscheln Bäume gerne, stehen möglichst eng zusammen und lieben die Gemeinschaft und sie lieben auch die Langsamkeit.
Yeah, trees don't do well when they're by themselves. You know, we as humans are part of that forest, and what we're perceiving is really valuable, and we should be paying attention to that.
It demonstrates those relationships that we've known and understood for a long time.
Really, they are caring for each other. They're making sure that they're a productive, healthy, vibrant, diverse community of trees, families of trees.
So when we talk about the brains of the forest, it's not like us, it's not thinking like us, but they do have reactions. They do have connections to themselves, for themselves, and then also for those around them, to those around them. So they're sending messages. So plants communicate. They do that through the air as well as under the ground through that mycorrhizal network of information that's being passed from tree to tree. So we can talk to each other and try to keep each other safe. Gosh, I hear that the flu season is already starting up. Have you gotten your flu shot yet? And that way we're helping, to keep each other safe. Or I'm not feeling very well, maybe I'm going to stay in my apartment tonight. And so we keep each other safe. And that's what these trees are doing too. They're sending those messages and triggering the defenses of the other trees to fight off insects, to fight off, when a rabbit chews on a tree, that tree sends out a defense that makes it taste bad. And so it can warn the other trees in the area, hey, there's something around that's going to try to nibble on you. So the other trees send up their defenses as well. So there is a difference, though. Michael Pollan, who is a writer, an author, a researcher, particularly around plants and food, Michael Pollan says, I don't think plants are sentient. They are not conscious the way we are, but they do have agency. On their own time scale, they are reacting and they have intelligence. They deal with changes in their environment. They either adapt to or change their situation. So there is a difference between emotions and connections and what they're discovering about trees. They do spend time, they do support each other, but is that an emotional, a sentient kind of support? That part is yet to be discovered. So there's more research to be done about the power of trees, about the power of plants. But connections. These are the three folks that are mentioned. The top two, Suzanne Simard and Dr. Peter Wolleben, are the two that you saw in the video. And then Michael Pollan is the researcher, plant researcher and food writer. And so I wanted to put their names up here so if you were curious, you could look up what kind of research they're doing at this point in time too. Other discoveries that they've made. So communication, we have that in common with trees. What do you, plants depend on community. So this is how they're working on that underground network. The big trees are making more energy than they need for themselves. So they're sharing some of those sugars out. This is a map of how the trees are connected. The biggest trees having the most connections, supporting other trees in that forest. It's really important for them to have those connections. Plants are depending on community. The research shows that the community is strongest when they have power to support each other. So according to a 2011 study in Philadelphia, researchers reported an average lifespan of 13 years for downtown trees. So for those of you from Philly or who have visited any city, really, the trees in the downtown area have an average lifespan of 13 years. And then those for residential sites are 37 years. 60 years for the best city sites, that would be parks in the city, and then 150 years for rural sites. So testing the same species of trees, taking out in all of those things into consideration, the life of those trees that have a community live 10 times longer or more than those that don't have that community. So street trees lack connection, that giving and getting support from others. So talk with your neighbor about what's coming up for you at this point. That idea of connection and community, is that new for you? Or have you heard of this before? Do you want to tell us more that you know about it? Chat amongst yourselves. Anybody want to share any thoughts?
I think for me, it should like it kind of reinforce the idea that like humans need other people to like have success. Like that, the fact that trees were doing this before humans were even on Earth is like just kind of like shows the validation to that.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for saying so. Teamwork. Yeah, it's cool. It's important.
So I think it's really cool that like that trees depend on like community. I think it's cool because like I can relate to that. There's like a relatability to it, like I don't know, between like humans and plants, kind of what we were talking about at the start of the lesson. How are we similar?
Yeah.
And like just like seeing like how like, oh, a tree stump gets supported not because like it can support itself, but because like bigger trees around give it nutrients. And I didn't know that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. You'll get to see a very cool example of this on the field trip in a few weeks. All right, let's do some more reasons or ways that we have in common, things we have in common with trees and plants. So these images, this is spring at Penn State, that's what it makes me think of. These are all really important for the trees. What do these do for the trees? We've got the redbud tree, we've got an apple tree, we've got some baby maple leaves and flowers here, dogwood tree, hemlock. Why does the plant put so much energy into making these?
Is it because they release seeds?
Yeah, they release seeds, right? So they put a lot of energy around this because plants have sex. These are the sex tools of the plants. So like us, they need to, they need to share information. So there's overview of the flower parts. The petals are the attractive part that attracts the insects. Talk about cool things insects are seeing in different wavelengths too, that flowers are showing up in. It draws the insects' attention. They come in, they get a little bit of this anther. There's pollen on these anthers. So they come and they get something to eat, but then they get all the pollen stuck to their legs, and then they fly to the next flower. And then on the next flower, they might touch this stigma with their legs, which transfers the pollen from one flower to the next, and then pretty soon we have reproduction happening. Abby, will you show that next video? I know this is a very old, little bit weird video, but it's really the best one I can find that tells the story.
Flowers planted and the pollen lands here, but it still isn't fertilization. The nucleus in the pollen still has to reach the nucleus in the egg, down here. Now the pollen grows a long tube like a long straw, which funnels the nucleus to the egg.
Seen under a microscope, these pollen grains are germinating. Pollen tubes are growing from the pollen grains. The male nucleus from the pollen passes down the tube on its way to the female egg cell, where they will fuse and fertilization will be complete.
And then what happens when fertilization is complete, right? All the way down there. All the way down there at the bottom. So on a beautiful flower like this is all of the pollen. Here's the stem that's going, the anther where it's going to go down through, and plants have babies. Look at them, they're all so cute. So all of those seeds that we see right now, all the acorns that are falling, the black walnuts that were falling, those were all fertilized. Those are the results of tree sex that happened way back when you were taking finals last semester, whether you were in high school, whether you were in college. That's when the trees were getting busy, right? So this is the result of that. And then what happens from there, like us, they disperse their babies away from home. That's why all of you are here, right? Not at home with your families. So you've been dispersed, just like the maple seeds have these cool helicopter-y things that get caught on the wind and spiraled away from the mama maple tree. She wants to spread out her genetic material as much as possible. So dispersing like that could be dispersing like this. This is the season, right, for apples. Apples are getting so good right now. Pennsylvania apples are magnificent. You can visit one of your local orchard, and then you too get to disperse some seeds. You eat that apple, you put the core in the compost, or maybe by accident you poop out a seed, right? And then it gets dispersed away from the mama apple tree. Blue jays carry all kinds. Other animals are carrying seeds in their fur. They carry them in their mouths. This blue jay has its crop full of acorns. They are known to plant more acorns than squirrels do. And then water dispersal. For plants that live, alder trees live right near the stream. They drop their seeds into the water. The seed coats are so hard that they can stay in the water up to 2 years. They get carried downstream and then planted on a bank someplace down there, and therefore the mama alder trees have done their jobs, sending their genetic material out into the world. So we don't think about it very often, but that's exactly what your parents and my parents have done, is they've sent their genetic material out into the world. We have all of that in common. And then the end of the cycle is that trees go back to the earth, just like we do. They nourish each other. A dying tree will send their nutrients out into the forest. All of those connections that it's made through the mycorrhiza, it will send its nutrients down and out so as to support the trees around it. The other way is that when they die and fall over, they call this a nurse log. This is a giant tree down below that these other trees are feeding directly from and on, getting nutrients from that dead tree. So we have so many things in common. We breathe, we're made up of the same elements, we eat, have a circulatory system. We've evolved, we grow, we use the same light wavelengths. We share resources, we communicate, we have sex and babies, we disperse our young, their young into the world, and we die and we return to Earth. So many things that we have in common with plants, particularly with trees. We have evolved parallel with trees. Our hands are like this. This form of hand is like this because of our co-evolution with trees. Our ancestors had to climb trees, which is why we have the opposable thumb and very flat fingernails that helped us to do more climbing. The grasping hand evolved, right? So we have this complex relationship that goes way, way, way back in time. We have used these plants for nutrition, for fiber, for pharmaceuticals, for energy, for people and animals across the globe. So we have this long relationship, which then lends itself very easily to the understanding that a lot of our art is inspired by plants. They are so central to our well-being, not just because they're food and oxygen, but they are also key components of our cultures, of our religions, of our medicines. It can be seen in the way that this beautiful fern tendril curls around, the artist's inspiration for this, or the fact that indigenous forest peoples collect plant material for medicinal use, or for religious practices. So not just physical nourishment, not just oxygen, but if you think about what would this campus be like without its trees? Okay? The trees and the diversity of trees on this campus, our whole campus is like an arboretum. We have that place now called the Arboretum, but the people who have been nurturing the trees at Penn State understand the value in diversity, understand the value in the beauty that those trees offer us in our surroundings. They bring us better emotional, social, and psychological health. So recent studies have shown what we may already suspect, that neighborhoods have more trees, have lower human mortality rates. The association has gotten stronger as trees aged and grew. So the older the trees are in those neighborhoods, the better the health of the community. Large trees have a greater health impact than smaller ones because they absorb more air pollution, they moderate temperatures better, they reduce noise. Those are 3 factors that are linked to a higher death rate. According to Robin Wall Kimmerer, if you remember, she is the scientist, the botanist, studying plants. She's also the member of the Onondaga Nation. She is the one who says, in some native languages, the term for plants translates to those who take care of us. So think about the community as a whole of us and trees. People have known this over time. For an example, the Chipko movement. These were people that started in the 70s. It was a nonviolent movement aimed at protection and conservation of trees and forests. Chipko movement originated from the word embrace, as the villagers used to hug the trees and protect them from the woodcutters. So it was based on a peaceful resistance to achieve goals, understanding that those trees were meaning more than just the money that they would get for selling the wood. Right? So this is just one example of those cultures that have revered trees over time. A long, long history together. What we are doing to the forests of the world is but a mirror reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another, says Mahatma Gandhi. My dad came to this class one day and listened. My dad spends a lot of time outside. It's not his career, but it is his passion. And he wrote to me after that class and he said, "We must take care of our trees just like we take care of our own bodies. If we don't, they won't be around to help us in the many ways that they do." I believe that somewhere we've lost that kind of vital connection between us and trees. So what comes up for you when you see these images? You hear the phrase tree huggers, right? This is admittedly, I've heard it called the tree hugger class. So what comes up for you when you see these images? Would anyone like to speak to this?
I really like being in nature and like, I don't know, definitely have hugged a tree or two. But I think it's really cool. I have seen a lot of like articles and stuff about people who have like cancer and different illnesses and in like different countries getting like medically like almost like prescribed to go outside because of like the different compounds in like the soil and trees and stuff and how it does like actually heal your body. And I think that's really interesting because I think like at least here we like resort to like man-made medicine all the time and like sometimes that is necessary, but I think like the combination of the two or like trying a holistic approach can be very interesting and like that's kind of what that reminded me of.
Thank you. So what Autumn talked about at the very beginning of class, nature and art RX. So RX is short for prescription. It's short for medicine. So the whole idea of the nature RX movement, nature and art, is that it's good for us. It's good for our well-being in lots of different ways. So if you get a chance to take in some of the Nature RX programs that are happening, maybe come to listen to Don Rakow this week, there's an opportunity there for healing, for mental health, mental well-being. I'm not saying, that medicines aren't important. I like the way that you said that. That's really beautiful. But balance can really be vital and help us support and sustain our own connections. No two trees are the same to raven, no two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still, the forest knows where you are. You must let it find you, says David Wagoner. This week, your discussion question is this: the more of the world I am in relationship with, the more alive I become. That's for your consideration. I look forward to reading your responses. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. You're welcome. Thank you.